What's your name?
My name is Cardi Cornish.
And you a legend?
I'm a legend.
You're a legend here in Baltimore City. Where we at right now?
We live in the 17, Pennsylvania Avenue. The legendary Pennsylvania Avenue.
Man, the last time I saw you here, you were doing something just across the street here. What were you doing?
Oh yeah, I had some food left over from an event. We brung it out. We fed a couple of people, man.
Why you do that?
Nice soul food.
Why you do that?
Man, the love that God has shown me in Christ, man, it overflows. That's how it overflows.
Yes, sir.
We got more than we can use.
Already was high within Sandtown, Winchester community, but the age group is getting younger. Children under the age of 18 being murdered in Sandtown has a high peak right now. So our goal is to catch the children.
You going hard, man. You going hard on that man today. So what do you think, Mr. Mayor? You got manufacturing right here, helping our young people despite all of the challenges in the city of Baltimore, right here on North Avenue.
No, it's really about the growth. Just knowing being there when they were down in Port Covington and seeing how far it's grown. Like you said earlier, like getting the Sorbet, where we got the Sorbet at the beginning, but now being able to, when I'm at Canada Yards, get it, or anytime I'm down at Harbor Place to get it, and folks to not even know, but they gonna know now that like this is coming from young people in West Baltimore, right there in West Baltimore on North Avenue, where they think nothing great comes from, but they can see it in what the young people do.
Here on the bank of Mississippi, now right here, French Fork, Mathis. A beautiful town, just leaving Algiers, which is an update 10 years since Katrina.
It's a smile on your face. And as time goes by, I know I'm in a better place. I'm in a better place.
All right, y'all, this is what I came to New York for. Besides the Black Wall Street Awards, we're going in here and get some of this real good jerk chicken. Johnny Glover, out.
Your skin, just the touch of your hand makes me tremble within.
But we need to feed our loved ones. DOTS needs to rescind this package policy program so that our loved ones are able to eat every day in that filthy facility that
we have some stars in the building.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul, baby. It's been a powerful week. Let's bring up our panelists for today's political roundtable. First up, attorney Robert Fulton Dashiel, Esquire. Good morning, attorney.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
We also have with us Dream Makers, Byron T. Deese. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you, brothers.
And all the way from Prince George's County by way of Cherry Hill in Baltimore, Mr. Ervin, Reid, political advisor extraordinaire. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let's start off with Mayor Eric. Well, first of all, Byron, you're down in Florida still?
Yep. In Florida, and went through the hurricane last night. But we actually aren't in the Tallahassee area, which actually went directly over Tallahassee. We're out in the Orlando area. So we had kind of the high winds were roughly around 52, 53 mile per hour last night. But grace of God, we made it through to protect us throughout the night. And so we lived to talk about it. So
clearly you didn't know a hurricane was going to be happening when you planned your trip there, did you?
I'm back and forth, man. I'm back and forth all the time. So it's, it's just a way of life now.
But that's your home state.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, Hurricane Helene. Okay, Mayor Eric Adams, what is he accused of? He's facing 5 separate, and this is according to BBC, 5 separate criminal counts, including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, federal program bribery, and to receive campaign contributions by foreign nationals, wire fraud, 2 counts of solicitation of a contribution by a foreign national, and bribery. According to the 57-page indictment, Adams allegedly accepted more than $100,000 in luxury travel, including hotel stays, lavish meals, and airline upgrades from Turkish nationals beginning in 2016 when he still served as Brooklyn Borough president. In one instance, for example, Adams is alleged to have received a heavily discounted stay at the Bentley Room of Istanbul's St. Regis Hotel, paying $600 for a 2-day visit that was valued at approximately $7,000. Attorney Dashiel, does it mean that he is going to jail?
I don't really have a crystal ball, but if I were a wagering man, I would say he's going to do some time. And I don't rush to judgment. I shouldn't say that as an attorney because he hasn't been to trial yet. The government hasn't proven yet the allegations, however detailed they may be. The government yet hasn't proven the allegations in the court of law, and we're still presumably innocent until proven guilty. But if I assume that the government can prove even half of the facts, the allegations that are in the indictment, which I did spend a little bit of time reading yesterday, if they can prove even half of those facts, I would guess he's going to be convicted, and I can't believe that the judge imposing the sentence will not include some jail time.
Mm-hmm. Ervin, as hard as it is to get blacks in office, any thoughts on how significant this is for the city of New York? At least the black population in particular.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to me that any African American that's running for an office, especially a high profile office, if you're not clean and you haven't done things you needed to do, it's almost a given because you're going to get investigated. Wayne Curry was as clean as it came. And Wayne, but they went up and down him 24/7. They brought a reporter, a Washington Post brought a reporter from New York just to put on Wayne, and investigated for a year, came out with an article that basically was nothing. But I'm just shocked. Any black person, especially black male, would actually, if you're not clean, dude, just don't do it. Take the lower flight, whatever. Again, like Attorney Dashiel said, I'm gonna, let the courts, do what they do before I make a decision. But I'm just shocked that I was totally shocked when I saw the press conference with the government, and the things, they just seem to be so easy. They got receipts here, receipts there. So I'm totally shocked.
Byron, I had a chance to hang out with Mayor Adams, both in Brooklyn. We did a Black Wall Street at Brooklyn Borough Hall when he was borough president. And then we hung out with him in Harlem, where he was helping with our Black Business Empowerment Commission. Is this a black eye for Black New York?
I to be honest with you, as I was reading through everything and hearing all the details, and even last week as they began to go after some of the other folks in his administration, to be honest with you, it looks a lot like political assassination, if you will, or at least an attempt to politically assassinate him than anything else. I mean, when you hear about, these are things that could have easily come out when he was running for office. These are things that happened before he became mayor, So, and I'll tell you something else. And if you start really listening to Mayor Adams, a lot of the things. I mean, he's the mayor of the largest city in the country, one of the most important cities in the world, and he has views that don't always line up 100% with the Democratic Party. A lot of it is. He has immigration views that don't line up with the Democratic Party, and I'm not trying to say that he was, the dagger came from the Democrats or whatever the case, but it sounds like he made some folks mad, and they said, we've been riding with this information ever since you were, in city council, if you will, a bureau chief, now. And even when he was in heading up the police department. So this is someone who knows the law. He knows it in and out. So this feels a lot like political, an attempt to destroy his political career than anything else.
Andy Pierre, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We were talking
How we
about
feeling?
Mayor Eric Adams of New York City. He's facing several charges, and by the looks of things, it's not his prognosis is not looking good.
Well, what I would say about this thing is that even though we have historically, there has been instances where an embattled politician comes back and wins re-election. Your Marion Barrys and all, across the nation, there's been a few, but the damage for him is already done because of the population that he serves. Like they came, they hit him up with they hit the indictment. You don't even need a conviction for them for the damage is already done. He doesn't have to be found actually guilty of any of this stuff. One, he's a black man, so it's just the inference of it alone is enough. But the damage is done. I'm not sure when their election cycle starts or ends, but he's gonna be. I don't like whether or not they slap cuffs on him. That's a different monster, because from what I've read, he stayed in the gray area of political campaign financing, but he kind of slightly put his toe across the line with that international funding, with the international money and the matching, the city matching funds or something like that. So it's gonna have to be really litigated, and it's completely we don't want to only know that our politicians are doing dirt when they've been convicted, but the way these indictments are being presented by the press, it's like the end all be all. Oh yeah, this guy's indictments came down. He is guilty.
Well, we talk about this, Donnie, as though Eric Adams was the choice of the black community. He wasn't. The fact, and frankly, I get a little upset when every time something happens to somebody who happens to share a color with me, somehow or another, it becomes my obligation to come to their defense or to answer for them as though they were speaking for me in the first instance. They weren't. Look, thievery, bribery don't have colors connected to them. It's just thievery and bribery. It's just greed and avarice. It's just right and wrong. And there's no color attached to that. And nor is there a political party associated with it. He didn't take the bribe because he was a Democrat. He didn't take the bribe. He didn't ask for the money because he was a Republican. He didn't ask for the money because he was black. He asked for the money because he wanted to spend it, period. He had things he wanted to buy with it. That's not a black or white issue, nor is it political assassination. The fact of the matter, when they timed it, has nothing to do with when he committed it. If they did it last year, he still would be, with the exception of the type of things that occurred within the last 12 months, he still would have been guilty of everything. He still would have been charged with everything that occurred prior to that time. So we got to look. One thing true leadership does is admit when it's wrong. One thing that true leadership does is not try to is exercise the right to discern those who are among us who really aren't our friends, who really don't support the objectives of our community. And we don't have, in other words, a thief is a thief, period. And we have the first opportunity, and we have the greatest responsibility to control and monitor and in fact discipline our own. And we don't do that. We out in accepting the burden, if you will, of every time there's a crime committed or alleged by somebody who looks like us, accepting the obligation to defend it is part of the oppression. That's part of it, because who among us, what group is there perfection? What group can stand up and say there's none of us that have never committed a crime? What group is there among us? So why do we have to be always Puritan Caesar's wife and accept that as and if there's one among us who is not, which none of us is, then all of a sudden it's a stain against Black people as a whole. I reject that, and I reject those among us who inadvertently and unintentionally promote that line of thinking.
Moving down
I was going to say real quick, Donnie, on that. I definitely agree the fact that, you know, when Black folks run for offices like this, we always we get on the back, right? We're concerned because we know we need you to be quote unquote Obama-esque. We need you to not get in trouble. We need you to be great and not get in trouble, right? Because if you're great, that'll look good for us. If you're horrible, that's going to be exactly what they thought we were anyway, right? If you skate the line and are just a little bit bad, they'll make it sound like you were horrible, right? So that's the reason why our back usually, if you will, is against the wall, because every time you're out there, you say, okay, we need you to do well and make us look good. We need you to make us look good. We need you to make us look good. And that's the reality. Now we can try to individually say, hey, I don't subscribe to that. That's not my MO. But as a people, we're always looking for Black folks who are leading to make us look good. So in some way, form, or fashion, it's a representation of all of us, if you will. And I hate that that's the case, but that's our reality.
Ervin, Reid, down in North Carolina, there's a gentleman named Mark Robinson, the controversial and socially conservative Republican nominee for governor, made a series of inflammatory comments on a porn website message board more than a decade ago, in which he referred to himself as a Black Nazi and expressed support for reinstating slavery, a CNN K-file investigation found. Despite a recent history of anti-transgender rhetoric, Robinson said he enjoyed watching transgender pornography. A review of archived messages found in which he also referred to himself as a perv. Any thoughts on Mark Robinson, Ervin, Reid?
I don't know a lot about the situation. I've seen it, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. I quite honestly, people vote now for individuals based on I don't even know. I mean, if Donald Trump can get elected with his background, why not him? I mean, I don't know why people are, Black people, white people, it don't even matter anymore. It's people just voting. So I don't, he's not a client I would take. I'll put it to you that way. But I don't know. I think we're at a place in America where people, as a political consultant, they're just voting. People, we're voting, people don't. I watched the last presidential debate. No one answered a question. No one seems to care. It's like, so I don't even know. Yeah, but I mean, that was his past, and if he enjoys transgender porn and it's not illegal, then go for it, my brother. I wouldn't vote for him, and I wouldn't take him as a client. But yeah, I don't really know what to say.
Andy, Pierre, are we now in a day and time where anything goes? The values of grandma and great grandma are just straight out the door. I mean, this man wants to reinstitute slavery. A Black man.
A man to say
he echoes. The thing about Mark Robinson is that he echoes sentiments that white Republicans want to say, but they can't. And so that's why they love the Black people that are a part of their party, because they come out and they say these horrible things about Black people that they don't want to be, because they don't want to be known to be a racist. Not to say that they're not racist. They don't want the world to know they're racist. So they elevate the Black person that hates Black people the most. I mean, he's lieutenant governor and has a real shot at winning the governorship. Like, why? The thing is, the Trump faction within the Republican Party has legitimately successfully hijacked the whole party and made it so that sensible Republicans are afraid of their own shadows.
Yeah,
like they will not come out and say anything sensible, especially if Donald Trump has already said some crazy wild stuff. They're going to double down, and I see it I get why it's playing out like that. And when we look at Black Republicans, which the expectations that they're going to be able to do anything to stop it is crazy to me, because it's like they don't even have the numbers to be paid attention to in the party. And so, like, we as Black people, we have the numbers within the Democratic Party where we can just command what the agenda is going to be. And if they don't get down or lay down, we're going to lay them down. But the Black people in the Republican Party, they got no power. They got, like they're just there. And so it's almost that it's like by design. The only Black people they really want in the party are Black people who will capitulate and echo those sentiments that they don't want to say out loud. They're like Nazis, they're pervs, they're doing all of that stuff. But they don't want to they don't want to echo it themselves. They would much rather, a Black person say it that way. Oh my goodness, this has to be some kind of real, because like you look at Candace Owens, she says some of the worst things about Black people, talking about we need to get them off the plantation. They need to join the Republican Party. And I'm like, yo, if you're talking crap about me, why the hell would I come be on your team? Like, you don't even like me. Why would I come let you stab me in my back?
Then Andy, how do you explain if you believe it to be true? How do you explain the support that's reported among Black men under the age of 50 is who support Donald Trump? I mean, I think everything you've said is really a condemnation of the so-called Democratic Party more so than the Republicans. At least those Black folk, and I use Black loosely, the same as everybody else is. I'm using that now only because of the color of the skin. But at least those Black folk within the Republican Party have an excuse. They can say we don't have the numbers. How do those Black folk in the Democratic Party explain that the Democratic Party has never really established the interests of Black folk as a priority in spite of having the numbers? How do we explain the fact that we only time we get to elevate, we never get to choose for ourselves who the leaders will be. We only get to select from those that have been vetted by the white establishment first, and then we get to choose among them. How do we explain the fact that we still in 2024 don't have the guts and chest to be truly free and independent? Why do we still believe in 2024 that we can accomplish nothing of value without the help, aid, and support of white people, when in fact historically we know from Tulsa and other places that the minute we can do it, and in fact they're so afraid of it that they bomb us to death or they destroy the institutions that we've created for ourselves? How do you explain that for the Black folk that are calling themselves Democrats?
Well, speaking of Democrats and Republicans, the GOP rep Clay Higgins, he's from Louisiana. He deletes posts calling Haitian migrants thugs, telling them to get their asses out of our country. In response to that, Hakeem Jeffries released this statement. The disgusting statement by Clay Higgins about the Haitian community is vile, racist, and beneath the dignity of the United States House of Representatives. He must be held accountable for his dishonorable conduct that is unbecoming of a member of Congress. Clay Higgins is an election-denying, conspiracy-peddling, racial arsonist who is a disgrace to the people's house. This is who they have become. Republicans are a party of Donald Trump, Mark Robinson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Clay Higgins, and Project 2025. The extreme MAGA Republicans in the House are unfit to govern. Anybody care to handle that?
Well, one thing I'll say, and this is also including that, but also to Attorney Dashiel's comments on that, is that, as a people in the Democratic, as a Black demographic in the Democratic Party, they've definitely given us opportunities to individuals an opportunity to rise and lead the agenda of the Democratic Party, but it doesn't mean that agenda is representation of the issues relative to Black people. And that's, I would say, the real culprit, if you will, is us. We're not organized enough to at least identify what our own agenda is. You know, how do we address the issues that affect Black people across the board, across the social statuses, across the economic base, from one community to the next? What's that unique thing that brings us all together, regardless how much money you got, what community you live in, what schools you go to? Is that we're Black? Can we identify an agenda that we can push legislatively to both parties, whether it be Democrat or Republican, that will advance the plight of Black people?
Let me just jump in here. For the past 22 years, we have talked about Black business.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about public education. We've talked about services for formerly incarcerated persons. We've talked about affordable housing, and we've talked about universal access to health care. That's been the 5-point agenda of Be More News and now BlackUSA.news. Mass incarceration, that alone ought to unite us, given that we are 5% of the world's population, the U.S., but we have 1 in 4 of the incarcerated people on the planet. 38% of Black men. Black women are the fastest growing demographic. If we can't unite as it relates to mass incarceration, especially given how many of us get locked up having done no wrong, you look at the marijuana convictions. Now they're selling weed legally.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have one Black dispensary in Baltimore City. Attorney Dashiel, why don't we have a Black dispensary in Baltimore City?
Because we don't decide
$300,000 to apply.
Because we don't decide who gets the licenses, and we don't decide the terms and the conditions applicable to those who are eligible to get the licenses. The only real issue, and I'll say it over and over again, the only real issue in the universe is who decides who decides. See, we've been taught to be a hopeless people. A hopeless people cannot guide anybody, including themselves. A hopeless people have no future because they've lost the capacity to develop it and determine their own destiny. We've been taught to be hopeless. Therefore, anything that we want, we have to go someplace else to ask for it. That you talk about the glass ceiling, the civil rights movement had a ceiling. The ceiling was, we will push, but we will not push so hard as to make white folk too angry with us that they will take back the little bit that they've given of that they've stolen.
That's right.
That's always been the ceiling. The ceiling has always been for us. We have never attacked the issue of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
We have never.
I want to say this. So we had, like Doni was talking about the business participation and small business need the participations and whatnot, right? So it reminded me of the whole EDBI situation with Brandon Scott and Calvin Young, where it's like, if you look at what they did simply, they came in and they're like, yo, too much money is leaving out of this organization that serves Black people going to white people. We putting an end to that. And now everybody's coming out, oh my God, Calvin is so horrible, which is something that the man said that he was going to do. He was like, all of this money is going to white firms and they're not effective. When he was talking about the arts, you thought that was just the arts programs he was talking about? No, he meant all sectors. And so now that he's reelected, what is he losing to retaliate? So what I said that to say, everybody's working in different lanes and going different directions to try to accomplish the same goals. Yeah. And we're not seeing and respecting what the other people are doing for what it is. Yeah, it might be a heavy-handed approach, definitely, but a heavy-handed approach is needed with these people. But they're too used to bringing in millions of dollars a year and not doing a damn thing to earn it. And we know we're the ones who suffer. They say, oh yeah, we need this $3 million to put together a summer camp for these kids. Meanwhile, they got 40 kids.
And we don't have the same goals. And the reason we don't have the same goals is because we never decided for ourselves what the goals ought to be. You can't end up where you should be if you don't know where you're going. You can't tell me you can't get me to get on the bus when you don't tell me where the destination is. But that's what we've been doing all along.
Your generation told us what the destination was.
Hold a second. The EBDI problem didn't start with Brandon Scott. It started with Elijah Cummings, who supported the effort to displace over 700 families from East Baltimore on the theory that sooner when we rebuild the housing, they'll have the right of first refusal to come back. You know how many families have returned? 25. 25 out of over 700 displaced. But they didn't just displace the people, they destroyed the community. You see, because a house is not a community. A community is a relationship between the people. So if you've destroyed if you move 700 people, you can't recreate that community with 25 families coming back. That's what we have done to ourselves. We have done that to ourselves because we have always been carrying the water of others who have never, ever, and we've been trained to do that. We've been educated to do that. Public education is indoctrination much more so than it is education. I don't need 12 years in school to learn that 2 + 2 = 4, but I may need 12 years to learn that white people are in charge and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Ervin Reid, Prince George's County. We are just weeks away from the November general election. What is your perspective on Angela Brooks versus Larry Hogan for U.S. Senate?
Based on what I can see, I think she'll win. I think it's going to be super close. It's, again, just as a political consultant, I'm not understanding how people are voting or thinking or whatever. You said something, Doni, about the 5 points. Why aren't these presidents? Why isn't Kamala talking about those 5 points? Sure, we're going to talk about black business, but nobody wants to talk about, returning citizens and criminal justice. And so I agree with Robert Dashiel when he says this ain't about, no one cares about our agenda. Just like the Republican Party, who select the blacks that they want to put in charge, so does the Democratic Party. Yep. If you start talking about the wrong thing, then you're going to be, kicked out or have very little leadership. But we as a people seem to don't understand that our elected officials are responsible for making sure that our agenda, our community is taken care of. And then when you go against the grain, people automatically assume you're a Trump person. We're not listening. We're voting based on, some reason that makes sense to us, which is your right. One man, one vote. Vote the way you want to vote. But to answer your question, I think Angela will win. I think it's going to be close. But I wouldn't be surprised if Hogan won, because white males are going to vote white males. So all Democratic white males tell you what they want, but they're coming out for white males, and it depends on what women are going to do. And there are a lot of blacks that I know that, quite frankly, aren't voting at all. And where I used to have a reason to tell them they should, I really don't have one now. They tell me, Ervin, if I vote, will education get better? If you live in Cherry Hill? I don't think it will. This country has decided what it's going to do. I've been telling my friends for decades, we're worse off now as a people than we were back when I was a kid. And now with 2020 Project 2024, which for some reason people don't understand, there's always been a project. There was Project 2023, 2022, 2020, whatever. So we just, until they wrote it down and published it, we didn't even know there was one coming. So, but to answer your question, I think Angela will win.
Do you believe in this notion of white supremacy? Were you ever taught growing up by your elders, by your parents, that white people are superior to you?
No, but I was taught, because my family is from South Carolina, that when I had to be careful with white folk this and white folk that, don't make trouble, don't do that, where that ain't what I believe. Once I got older and once I started to understand that we the people also meant me. So it's we, when people tell no, it's we, I've got just as many rights as other people. Like we were talking to some friends about when the receiver down in Florida got pulled over. I mean, you got to give a police respect, but you deserve respect too. We, for some reason, think we're second-class people. You know, well, Ervin, they can't talk about that during the election because you're gonna talk about Israel, you're gonna talk about gay, you're gonna talk about black issues. Like I tell I didn't vote for Barack the second time. He wouldn't talk about black issues. I'm black. If you ain't gonna talk to me about my issues, I'm not voting for you.
Yeah.
Can I take it back to the also Brooks race? I have some reservations. I'm not feeling all that great about it, and the reason is because we've seen this play a number of times. You have all of these polls coming out saying, "Oh, also Brooks is leading. The lead is being extended by 10 points, 8 points, bip, 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 all of that." But the poll is they polled 400 people. They polled 800 people. You know, they don't poll enough to scientifically have even they're claiming that it's a 3% margin of error. But I'm like, what is your percentage of confidence in that margin of error? Because if it's a 3% margin of error, but you're only 60% confident that that's the number, that don't mean a goddamn thing to me. And in a state like Maryland, you need at least 50,000 people to respond to your survey for it to be even close to 98% confidence level of a 3% accuracy. So with that, we remember how they did with us with Trump 2016. Oh my goodness, the polls are showing him behind. He is losing. He is never going to win. Bip, bip, bip. And what happened? We got a Trump presidency because it seems like a really good play. If I'm saying to your people, oh man, your guy is really winning. He's winning by 10 points, man. Listen, election day come around. Am I really going to bust my ass to make it to the polls? Because if I know my boy is already winning, it is a really nice tactic of voter suppression in order to make everybody believe, especially people in the black community, believe that their chosen candidate is so far ahead. So far ahead. Outside of the mark, like 10 points? Come on. On an 800 person poll? Yeah, that's not accurate at all in any way, shape, sense of the word.
Don't forget that the only reason that Trump won in 2016 is because of the constitutionally mandated voter suppression, which is called the Electoral College. The fact of the matter is that Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than he did. Exactly. She must be she has to be the unluckiest person in the world that not one of them counted. Not one of them was in a place that helped her get a single, more electoral votes. But the Electoral College is a constitutionally mandated form of voter suppression. That's all it is.
So here's the thing. All right, the Electoral College, it's all good, it's all fine and dandy, it's bad.
And so too, Andy, we have to we talk about our rights as citizens. But the fact of the matter is, most black people believe that we didn't become citizens until the 13th Amendment. They don't recognize the fact that our citizenship, our ownership in this place of land, and putting aside the fact that it was stolen from everybody in the first place, including us, but putting that aside for the moment, the fact of the matter is we're the only group whose citizenship didn't start when our feet hit the ground, just like theirs did. We're the only group who says that our citizens, we acknowledge the fact and accept the fact that our citizenship was a grant given to us by white people. Well, what white people give, they believe they have a right to take back. And they've been in the process of doing it ever since.
Yeah.
I want to put before this panel that Kamala Harris's office in Arizona was shot up. Did anyone hear about this?
I didn't.
I did hear about that.
Well, what do you think, Byron?
Hear about that.
Yeah, I heard about it, and I'll tell you this: at the end of the day, I hope the sister wins, but I'll tell you right now, she wins. That what we call the MAGA Republican Party, we'll find out just how fast that is a real cult and not a real political party. They will definitely use all of their Second Amendment resources to show their displeasure of her winning.
What do you mean? They're going to be out with guns?
Oh, they're getting out. Oh, they shooting. Oh, it's a wrap. You could go back and listen to the rhetoric. I think a lot of times we stay in our own bubbles. But if you just listen to I can tell you, and even here in Florida, it's a different ball game. You see it, you feel it, you hear it just in the day-to-day. Like these guys, they definitely will. They will be waiving their Second Amendment rights if she wins. This is not going to be like a normal, we saw January 6th was one quick precursor to how they feel about losing elections. And so I think it's important for all Black folks to recognize that this is not the normal situation of, oh, yeah, she won. And, January 20th is when things, it will be, they will have blood ready to roll. Now, how long will it last? Will it be a one-off situation? But I can guarantee you they will be shooting up.
Attorney Dashiel,
after that,
you being my legal representative, does that mean that I need to get a vest and a gun?
That means you have to recognize you're in a fight, and like the referee says in the beginning, protect yourself at all times. When I say, because there's nobody who's going to say break, go to your corner. So that means you've got to protect yourself at all times. Now, once the issue of black and white is put aside, the real issue is the allocation and ownership of resources. That's the real issue. And the real question, the real problem is how do you, and whether it can be peaceably done, how do you reallocate resources such that 1% of the population doesn't control 99% of the resources, and not just of this country, but I'm talking about worldwide. How do you redistribute the pie, in other words? And most importantly, who decides how the pie is to be redistributed? Those are the real issues. And I tell you that on those issues, there will be an allegiance, there will be an alignment, there will be a coalition between white and black. As I told one of the recent mayoral candidates, I said, I would put on my blackest garb, my most Afrocentric wardrobe, and I would go down to Pigtown or wherever we think that they're the hotbed of racism in Baltimore City. And I would go to the meeting and I'd say, look, your kids are just as dumb as mine. Why? Because they're so-called being educated in the same public education system. Now, you can either get mad with me because of the way I'm dressed and the way I'm talking, or you can sit down and figure out how we can get an education for our children. That's the issue.
Speaking on education, though, but it's funny because Tiger Davis spoke on this to me one time. He was like, before we integrated the schools, the black teachers, we had the best of the best teaching our kids. We was teaching our kids to be three times better than the white kids. They ain't like that. They integrated the schools, and then they started to teach our kids to be less than mediocre white kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We and because they understand, as we should understand, that education is the key. Not so but we taught it for the wrong reason. See, we taught our kids that the reason for education so you can get a better job working for white folks. Then we don't admit it, but that's the truth of the matter. We taught that's the reason why we took, so you can get a better job working for white folk. That's not the purpose of education.
That's exactly
education
right.
So you can get on a panel like this and try to educate black folks about what freedom looks like and how to be free. That's
not the purpose of education, but nowadays with this higher education hustle, because that's all it is a hustle.
Yes,
that's exactly what they're doing. By the time you come out of college, you could come out of college, you could have a grad school degree, and you're talking about you come out and you're making $30,000-$40,000 a year. You can't live on your own. You need 2 roommates, but you have all of this education and all of this student debt.
And our kids see that, Andy. Our kids see that. Our kids are not stupid. Kids say, look, hey, if the end game is for you to get a better job, which means make more money, and I see that you went the correct route and you making $30,000 a year, I ain't wasting my time. I ain't wasting my time following you. I'm following the man on the corner with the big car and the diamond rings. We might not live to be your age, but who cares?
Ervin, come on in.
Looks like it's bad.
Hold up, Ervin. I know you teach math. You're a math genius, if you will.
I don't know about genius.
How do we get our children better prepared? Any thoughts on education?
Yeah.
Prince George's and Baltimore City have the 2 worst public school jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. And I said this when the governor was first elected, our first black governor. I wish to see a task force specifically addressing what Baltimore City and Prince George's County need to do to reverse this fight for the bottom.
Donnie, the first thing we need to do is start taking responsibility. I'm tired of people telling me what they are doing to us. What are we doing for us? Our schools are bad because we allow them to be bad. We had great schools in Cherry Hill when I was there, so I don't know about but I've gone back to substitute, and what was going on in those schools was horrific. Down here in Prince George's County, we have something called TRIM, which means you can't raise taxes, and that TRIM started when a black man became county exec, because they didn't want money going into the schools, so they decided he tried to overturn it, but the citizens here decided they didn't want to do that. So I'm tired of black. First thing we as African Americans.
Was this Jack Johnson?
No, this was Wayne Curry. When Wayne Curry, it happened under Paris Glendenning, they saw a black county exec was about to come. The county was changing, so they put all these rules in place, term limits, all this stuff to control the government. But we allow that. So this first thing, we got to get this day out of our mind. If stuff ain't happening, you had 4 HBCUs in Maryland. The court said that they should have gotten $2 billion. We've got the largest black delegate. Nothing happens if those blacks stick together. But yet we end up with $500 million. They ain't screwing us. We screwing us. So until you get to the mentality, I own my rights. See, I own mine. So, so I'm going, I walk out when, Andy, you were talking about the polls. I was basing that based on what I do. Over the last several months, I probably talked to about easy 7,000 to 8,000 people, because I'm on the streets as a political consultant. So I'm not counting on no polls. I told all of my friends Trump was going to beat Hillary, because I'm telling y'all now, everybody I talked to, nobody liked Hillary. So no, it ain't about what they doing to us, it's what we're doing to us. We talk about Project 25. That's like having a great defense and no offense. Dude, what's our plan? Y'all can worry about Project 22. You have a plan and you ain't gonna do a damn thing yourself. So what's the goal? I mean, what are we really trying to do? But the first thing we need to start to do, we need to look in the mirror and take, so if y'all want to call her, that's fine. She's going to answer some questions about her prosecutorial record for me, because that's dangerous. So but if you don't need, that ain't important to you, then that's fine too. But don't sit around and tell me that you're scared of Trump. I'm not scared of Trump. And I guarantee you 90% of those people that walked up in that Capitol had a chance to do it again, wouldn't walk up in there. Go down to DC jail where some of them sit, no horse. That privilege walked them up in there. Their reality walked their ass out, because they weren't in South Dakota or someplace in front of judges. They were in front of DC judges. They're like, nah, Slim, you're doing some time here. So that's all I'm saying.
Hey, Donnie, real quick, Donnie, you opened up earlier with the platform, from mass incarceration to Black business to healthcare. Like, what those points that you outlined is an ideal agenda that needs to be amplified within the Black community. There needs to be an opportunity. We're going to always be on the menu until we do, as Ervin Reid said, create our own plan and then push that plan. And we can't just push the plan in the Democratic Party. We have to push that plan in the Republican Party and anybody else's organized party, so we can, at least when we have folks over there, because we don't all think the same way. We don't all have the same views, so I get it. We can have Black Republicans and Black independents and Black Democrats. But when they get there, statewide, federal, municipal, they need to have an agenda of how to advance the plight of Black people across the board in this country. And that is what we don't have. Now, I will say federally, if we could easily, I shouldn't say easily, but we should be able to push this at the Congressional Black Caucus, make that not just become a time to get together and support the issues of the Democratic Party, but it's an opportunity to say, here are the issues with Black people in this country. Now let's go out and push this agenda throughout the country. So we have to do that. We can't, until we get to that point, we'll always be on the menu.
But that's a top-down approach.
Hold tight, Andy, because Byron's going to have to leave. I just want to get this in before he goes. Are any of you paying attention to Baltimore County? Ervin, down in Montgomery County and Prince George's County, you have about 900,000 people. and you have 11 county council members on each of those councils. Is that correct?
Well, Prince George's, I think Montgomery's 1.2 million, and Prince George's is almost $1 million.
But they both have 11 council persons, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
In Baltimore County, they have not changed the number of council districts in over 50 years, if I'm not mistaken. They have 7 council districts. They have 855,000. Now, recently, Councilman Izzy Patoka, now he's interested in running for county executive. He sided with 3 Republicans to lift the number from 7 to 9. There's a black woman out there, Linda Walker Dorsey, who has pushed this petition to increase it to 11, which will be on par with Prince George's and Montgomery County. Now, the challenge, Andy, is that the black elected officials out there have been quieter than a prostitute on the front row at church. There's no word. But meanwhile, Izzy Patoka, who happens to be Jewish, sided with the 3 Republicans. Now, since then, we've learned that the map that they drew was illegal because the map was supposed to be drawn by an independent source. So there's a whole heap of stuff going on, but this thing will get voted on in November. It is not resolved. The ACLU has a lawsuit against the county. And then to top it off, this week we find out that Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski is accumulating waterfront property. So I was just putting it out there for Baltimore County in case anybody's listening. And it's particularly important to me because Northwest Baltimore County is like Prince George's County to Washington, D.C. Northwest Baltimore County, and I do mean Catonsville, Woodlawn, Roundstown, Owens Mills. That's our black suburbia, Ervin. Yeah. That's where our best and brightest paying for them $300,000, $400,000 houses out there, but about as politically astute as a dyslexic snail on a bag of fentanyl.
We got to get Julian Jones on here, man, and get his view on it.
Say this about that situation, right? When I heard that this whole thing, I'm over here like, well, I know Izzy wants to get the black people out of his district, like, because when I worked with Tony Fugit when he was challenging Izzy Patoka when they got all of them new black people in the district, and we gave Izzy a run for his money. Now, if it wasn't for the Erdl and it wasn't for we didn't get to enough young white people, but we won every single black precinct. So and he has a vested interest to cut all of them black people out of his district. And to say that, oh yeah, the lines were illegally drawn, maybe they were. Maybe, who knows? I don't know how they do things out there in the county and whatnot. Maybe they were, but I do know that they were not cut in a way that split up the black vote to a point where it's not useful at all.
Okay, let me just get this one last point in. I know all of you have an opinion on it. Did he do it? Did he do it?
He did it. He did it. Yeah.
I've seen people try to liken him, Sean Combs, unto Hugh Hefner. Is that fair, Ervin?
Don't know much about Hugh, other than Playboy magazine, which I used to sneak when I was a kid. But I mean, it's Hollywood. It's yeah. I mean, it's an industry. I don't think Diddy ain't the first, and he probably ain't gonna be the last, but he did it. But that's the way that whole system works. Politics is similar. Yeah, a lot of things happen that we turn our eye to because we want our heroes to be whatever. And I'm just curious to see if Diddy's gonna live, because there are a lot of people that are, you know, if you get the right prosecutor, gonna go down, and there's a lot of our heroes are gonna fall, I believe. So, but yeah, I think he did it. But I think, yeah, that's what Hollywood's all about.
Well, they got a meme out about R. Kelly and P. Diddy. Come on, Byron.
Yeah, the one part about that we got to pay attention to is the business dealings, right? So how he lived his lifestyle and How freaky he wants to get, that's one thing. And if he broke any laws in his approach and in his lifestyle, then that's a different conversation. But his dealings with Diageo, with the corporations that own Ciroc and all the other liquors that folks drink at the nightclubs and all that, when he told them he wanted ownership, an ownership seat at the table, and he was going to get there by any means necessary, he put Ciroc on the map. You know, folks didn't really know about Ciroc from a mass scale perspective until he put his name on it. When he got to that point, that's when things start getting ugly, because they're happy to have you market it and they'll pay you some marketing dollars to, you know, push their product. But when you say you want ownership and they get to selling off assets, then he gets a piece of those assets, those shares. That's when things started getting ugly. He outlined that last year. He talked about it in detail in a couple of conferences that he attended. But so right now, all we see is his lifestyle. And this dude, if we start shining a light on a lot of these Hollywood lifestyles, we will be completely floored, right? So that's one thing. But the part that we do have to pay attention to is the part they're not talking about is, why didn't they want Diddy to play from an ownership perspective, Diageo in particular? You know, why were they stiff arming him? And when it got to the point where he was able to actually make some progress on that, then you start saying the same way they did Bill Cosby. Like you say, Bill Cosby had all kinds of stuff going on, but as soon as he went right at NBC, you start hearing about all the stuff he did in public or in private, I should say. So there are two sides of all this thing. People, we all live crazy lives or whatever the case may be, private lives. But when somebody shines it on there because they don't want you to be in the room, then that's a different conversation altogether.
Final thoughts, Ervin, Reid.
Okay, just quickly with Byron, but he's going after their money. He's playing by their rules. He's got to play by his own rules. You don't hear Ice Cube running around. No, Ice Cube knows that white America ain't gonna take him and all of that, and he's doing what he's doing. I look at Lamar Jackson. Lamar should be on all types of commercials. He's not their type. Once we figure out who we are, but Lamar don't really seem to give a damn. And that's where we as African Americans need to start not giving a damn about being like them. We need to want to be like us.
Because they will never accept us.
Right. They never will. They don't accept you. They're never going to accept us. And that's fine with me, because I ain't trying to marry a white woman. So I don't need none of that. Anything they're giving me, and I'm comfortable. So, but I don't have a problem with business people trying to keep all of the pie and not give it to somebody else if they don't have to. Go make your own pie. I quit my job in 1989, and I worked for me ever since. I may not be a billionaire or millionaire, but I'm cool. At least one thing I got is a peace of mind. And to me, that's where we as a people have gone wrong, that now we need a Harvard behind our name. We need to have a certain type of car lifestyle, where back in the day, we just wanted, we were happy. We just want, and, so we had our own Black Wall Street. Rap music had their own industry. They didn't have to go to the white men. Yeah, they were doing what they did. So, but so I don't have a problem with white folks saying y'all can't have piece of my pie, and we need to go get our own pie.
Nah, that's where I disagree with you. We need to take their pie.
Okay, well then take it, but don't cry about it. Yeah, don't sit here and say if Diddy was wrong, Diddy was wrong. I mean, hey, look, if you're gonna go take the white man pie, don't do some dirt. Because they coming after.
No, the thing is, Hugh Hefner, Epstein, Diddy. Ain't no difference.
Right. Okay.
And so, and then it's like, I remember reading this book, 10 Things White People Won't Tell You. And one of the things they said is, for some reason or another, Black people fought for equality for all of these years instead of dominance. And that's where my mind is at. Like, we don't want, listen, if we can't eat with you, if we can't sit at the table with you and eat, then you're not sitting at the table. And so that's why I think Diddy did. I'm really hoping that all of them cameras and whatnot really did catch a lot of footage, and that Diddy dropped all of that. Because there's more, the white people who step down from their positions, them CEOs that step down, that ain't just them. They're just the smart ones. They're just the ones who's like, oh, wait a minute, this is about to go left. Let me go ahead and step down and get out of this public line, sight line. But nah, this ain't gonna be sweet. This ain't gonna be sweet at all. And so, did he
More to
do it? Yeah, he
follow.
did it. But
I hope
the
you
thing
jump.
is, huh? I think I broke up.
I can hear you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you.
But like did he do it? Probably. I mean, there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of moving parts. Probably didn't do all of it, but he probably did. There's some truth in there because all great lies start with a monochrome of truth. So I can't defend his innocence, but what I will say is he's gonna bring some people down with him, people we did not expect. Like you think he said in his song with Waka Flocka, I got my money up fucking with them white folks. And now I'm richer than them white folks. And so he's not about to just let this thing take this L laying down, nor should he. It's like they was in it doing dirt too. How you gonna be in it doing dirt with me and then turn around and first 48 me? You was there too.
Andy, I do think that there's a certain responsibility that when the good Lord blesses you, as he has some of these people, why do we lose our damn mind? Why do we take on the characteristics of the very people who oppressed us? It's called pedagogy of the oppressed. But we're out of time. Ervin, Reid, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule as an entrepreneur. I'm sure you're going from vacation to vacation. And Andy, Pierre, we thank you for joining us. Up to day down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.